Good evening to all of you who are joining from Sri Lanka, and good morning to all of you who are joining from USA and Canada. Welcome to graduate admission panel discussion organized by Colombo University Faculty of Science Alumni Association in association with the Faculty of Science, University of Colombo. First of all, this panel discussion will be moderated by myself and Wasundara Fernando. And I'm Sachith Dissanayake from University of Rochester. I'm working as a research assistant professor. Wasundara.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us today. Like Sachith said, my name is Wasundara Fernando. We are the co-moderators for today's session. I'm joining from Dalhousie University, Canada. I'm working as a postdoctoral scholar currently. Sachith?
Yeah, thank you, Wasundara. So, first of all, I would like to thank everyone who actually filled this graduate admission panel discussion questionnaire that we distributed. We have received more than 255 responses, which is a very good sign that a lot of you are actually planning to apply for graduate admissions in USA and Canada. So you want to learn something. So that's what we want also. So if we look at the distribution of the students who will be joining today, I think I can see already 188 participants joining, and more will join, hopefully. And so out of those 255 responses, 41% are recently graduated. And then we have fourth year, third year, and second year, and also importantly, some MSc and MPhil students joining us today. And we asked a question about what do you consider the most when you are selecting a university. So the majority of the participants mentioned that they are interested mostly in the research interest. So that's very good. But all other factors that we discussed or students also mentioned are also important, which we will discuss later in the panel discussion. And also there were several other questions that we discussed, and I kind of summarized some of the responses. So by looking at your answers and what you want to discuss, we selected a set number of questions to ask from our expert panelists. So we'll be asking set number of questions from the panelists according to your answers given in the questionnaire. And then we may not able to cover all the things you asked, but we will give you a Q&A session, which is the most important part, hopefully. And so that they will, you can actually, our panelists will answer your questions. So please type your questions. You don't have to wait until the end of the session. Also, if you have anything in mind that you feel like it is not covering, or that in a topic that panelists discuss, you have a follow-up question, please type it in the chat window as we go, so then we can compile and be ready to give the question to the panel. All right. Next, let me introduce our expert panelist for this panel discussion. First, let me introduce Dr. Harshica Fernando, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Prairie A&M University. And next, Dr. Arunika Gunawardena, Professor of Biology at Dalhousie University in Canada. And Dr. Amita Manatunga, Donna J. Brogan, Professor of Biostatistics at Emory University. Dr. Unil Perera, Regents, Professor of Physics at Georgia State University. And Dr. Kirthi Premadasa, Professor of Mathematics, University of Wisconsin-Platteville. So we kindly welcome all the panelists to this panel discussion.
Yeah, so before we jump on to the session today, we would like to hear a few words from our experts. Please take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about your background, research, and also your involvement in graduate studies application process. First, kindly inviting Dr. Harshica Fernando. Dr. Fernando.
Good morning. Thank you, Vasu. Good morning and good evening. So I'm Harshica Fernando. Currently, I'm an assistant professor at Prairie A&M University. So I graduated from University of Colombo, majoring in chemistry. I was in the faculty after I joined, did my PhD at the University of Illinois at Chicago, went back and served the university for about 5 years and then came back to US. So I was in research for quite some time, and then about 5 years back, I joined this university. And my research interest, I have a variety of research interests. So I do molecular modeling, work on toxicology, then nanoparticles, environmental pollution, and generating catalyst for various applications. Thank you.
Dr. Gunawardena.
I'm a professor in the biology department here at Dalhousie University, and my lab studies program cell death or PCD in plants. So PCD in plants plays a significant role in development and defense as in animals. But compared to animal PCD, relatively little is known in this field. So my lab uses the lace plant as a model to investigate the signaling pathways, molecular mechanisms, and genes involved in developmentally regulated PCD. So I'm passionate about my career as a professor and research on program cell death and enjoy mentoring undergraduate and graduate students. I also serve on the graduate admissions and scholarship committee. And I'm so happy to see so many of our Sri Lankan children are interested in graduate studies. Yes, graduate school is so much fun, and look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Gunawardena. Dr. Manatunga.
Yes, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for CUFSAA and the organizing committee. And I am Amita Manatunga, professor of Biostatistics, Department of Biostatistics and Bioinformatics at the Rollins School of Public Health, Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from University of Colombo with a general degree in physics, pure mathematics, and applied mathematics. And then later I came to the US and obtained a master's degree from Purdue University in Indiana. And later I joined the PhD program in the Department of Statistics at the University of Rochester. I obtained my PhD degree there, and later I served in the Indiana Medical Center, and then ultimately joining Emory. So my research interests are focused on developments of new statistical and computational methods and data science to address novel scientific questions in biomedical and clinical studies, particularly in the areas of mental health, nuclear medicine, cardiology, and epidemiology. I do have PhD students in biostatistics and the postdocs, and also I supervise master students in biostatistics. And in terms of the graduate program, the Emory has a mathematics, PhD mathematics program and a biostatistics program that I am most familiar with. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manatunga. And then we have Dr. Unil Perera. Dr. Perera.
Thank you, Vasu. And also I want to thank the organizing committee, starting from Sachith and everybody, to do something like this, which will benefit a lot of people. So I am also a University of Colombo graduate who did the physics special. And then after serving 1 year as assistant professor, I came to University of Pittsburgh to do my PhD. And I did physics, specifically condensed matter, in my PhD. And then I moved to Georgia State University in Atlanta as assistant professor and started research and teaching. mainly in semiconductor optoelectronics, focusing on, again, applications, infrared detectors, infrared UV, visible, all that areas, multiple wavelengths, wavelength selectable, polarization sensitive, and all that. And that was my research for almost 20 some years. And more recently, last 6 years or so, I have moved to even more real applications, that is biomedical applications using infrared. So that is disease detection using infrared applications. So my research was supported continuously for more than 25 years by NSF and DOD. And I also had several graduate students, and that was my main focus. And I had undergraduates doing summer research projects with me. And mostly I teach graduate courses, but throughout my career, at least I have taught one undergraduate course, which is the classical mechanics for senior undergraduates. So I'm familiar with the recommendation letter writing requests. So we'll talk about that later. But I'm very happy to participate in that. And also about graduate studies, I was the graduate director for Georgia State University for almost 15 years, because I joined the university when we had a very new, in fact, 5 years old graduate program. So I built up from like 5-6 graduate students to 60 graduate students before I hand it over. And even after that, I am a member of the graduate admissions committee. So thank you.
That's fantastic, Dr. Perera. So last, but most definitely not least, we have Dr. Kirthi Premadasa. Dr. Premadasa.
Thank you so much, Wasundara and Sachith. First of all, like Professor Unil said, I just want to extend my sincere appreciation to the organizing committee. This is a wonderful job. So very shortly about myself, I was a Colombo University undergraduate who did mathematics special, went to Purdue University where I got my PhD in algebraic topology. And then I came back to Sri Lanka and taught at University of Colombo for 14 years. And during which actually, in 2002, I became the head of mathematics department. But one of the nice things I did during that time is that because of the backlog which happened in the late 80s, the art of going overseas with an assistantship was kind of not known to the new students. So I took a lot of effort introducing it back into the university system in 1994. And so right now, and then after in 2007, I came back to the United States. Then I worked at Whitewater, University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and now I'm a professor at University of Wisconsin-Platteville. My current research area is actually on human interest alignment using mathematical modeling, and I do a lot of work. So it's a lot of combination of applied mathematics and software modeling, right? And we have actually developed a lot of innovative products on career guidance as well as HR, and I'm very passionate about this type of modeling process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Premadasa. So, Sachith, I think we are set to go ahead and start with our session. Over to you.
Thank you, Wasundara, and thank you all the panelists. Okay, so as I mentioned before, so we are going to present some set questions for each panelist. They will answer the questions and then we will move on to the Q&A. I'm already getting some Q&A questions to my chat box. Yeah, so please, if you have any other questions when you're going through any topic, please free to drop it in the chat box. Right. So the first question, we are going to direct it to Dr. Arunika Gunawardena. So as you can see, Dr. Gunawardena, there are so much interest among, if you can see, we have like almost 300 responses and 226 participants today. So our first question is, how does an undergraduate decide whether to apply for graduate studies or not? Could you please explain that to our audience?
Yes, this is a very important question, Sachith. I think to answer this question, we need to ask this question first. why do I really want to apply for graduate studies? Is that because you are passionate about your subject, or your chosen profession actually requires a graduate degree, or you just want to leave the country, or family pressure, or from family or society, or could be any other reason? Well, if you are genuinely interested in research and you want to learn more, you will be a good candidate for graduate school. So the next question is this the right time for me to go to graduate school? Or will I be a successful graduate student if I start now? Graduate school is a huge commitment with high expectations. But remember, it's a rewarding and fun experience. I recommend that anyone who wishes to apply for graduate school should consider these qualities and skills in addition to graduate studies requirements. Am I enthusiastic and committed to my research? Because graduate school is not just 9-to-5 job. You need to spend long hours in the lab. And also graduate school requires self-direction. So am I motivated and self-disciplined? Am I, could you please, am I good at critical thinking and creativity and communication? Because sometimes your experiments not go correct right away. So you may need to do a lot of troubleshooting. So you have to critically think and evaluate. Or do I have a strong work ethic? And also it's important to have a strong mental ethic, because you have to come to Canada or US in order to start your graduate school. So can I handle being away from your friends, family, and loved ones? So you need to consider all those factors actually and decide whether this is the right time for you. Sometimes it may take a little longer for you to develop your skill or obtain your qualification, but that doesn't really matter, because graduate school is appropriate at any time or any stage of your life. In other words, it's never too late to apply for or go to graduate school. So choice is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gunawardena.
Yeah, that was a great start to our session. Thank you, Dr. Gunawardena. Moving on, our second question is, how does an undergraduate decide which field to apply to? And Dr. Premadasa, we'd like to hear about your thoughts on this.
So this is a very interesting topic, because to start with, I think I will actually, there are 4 points on this slide, but actually I would, I'll start with the second point. And I'm catching on what Dr. Arunika said. The passion for your work is number one, because when you, especially as you get older, right? I mean, you will notice that if you do not have genuine passion to what you are doing, right, you will feel unaccomplished or unfulfilled. But the researchers who love their area really keep on going until very late in life. So, but you have to remember that what is important is that you end up doing what you love, right? You not really need to start doing what you love, because the start is actually getting your foot in a US or a Canadian university. Now, when you get your foot in, remember, people from all over the world are trying to get their foot in to a graduate program. So you really have to look at the US internal competition as well as the competition from countries like China and India and rest of the world. And they will have very accomplished people trying to apply for the same area that you're applying. A general rule of the thumb is pure sciences such as, say, mathematics, physics, right? Okay, so not many US, there are of course, but not a whole lot of US students are concentrating on doing PhDs in this area. So for those areas, there is less competition, I would say, but it can still vary. But areas like computer science and electrical engineering, the competition is very large. So So what do? Okay, so you really want to do computer science, and then, the competition is so large. What you can do is try to get your foot in through a different department related to computer science, like mathematics or physics or some other department, and then try to work your way into your passion. So, and then the third point is also very important. Some areas which may look very competitive, and for example, business, right? Okay, might look very competitive, but remember, not all US students, US born students, do not want to do PhDs in business. They would like to get an MS and then walk away to a nice job with a high paying salary. Then what happens is there are not many candidates applying for PhDs. So there are these weird situations where the competition looks very intense for the MS, but not necessarily for the PhDs. Look for those. And also, remember, when you are applying from Sri Lanka, you may be the smartest students in the lot, but you are still applying from far away. It makes all the difference when you're in a university and applying. So, for example, quite a lot of my friends who came to do mathematics, right, at Purdue University, what they did was they took a couple of computer science courses, right? And then they decided, okay, and they got to know the computer science department, right, personally, because now they're in the same university. And then they slowly started getting attached to the department and getting, recommendation from computer science professors. And then eventually they moved into the program. So try to please look at the US internal competition and the worldwide competition before applying. And remember, what is important is to end up doing what you like. You don't have to really start doing what you like. Life is short, but it is not that short. You have plenty of time actually to work your way into doing what you like. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Premadasa. Sachith? I think you're mute.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. This will be directed to Dr. Unil Perera. There is a lot of questions actually. Even now I got a question like, can I apply when I'm finishing my degree, still finishing my degree? So if we consider undergraduate who's either finishing or they're already done or they are doing their MSc, what do you think the best time to apply for graduate studies? Is their best time, or should they apply at the end of the third year, fourth year, or after graduation? Can you mention a little bit more about that?
Thank you, Sachith. So maybe I will start with both comments made by Arunika and Kirthi. They mentioned that the commitment and how dedicated you are for your PhD is important. So that I'm going to stress that point. You should decide whether you are ready to have an application package which shows a strong commitment and your keenness to do graduate studies, and that you can complete the application package by the deadline of the university. And that will depend on your graduation and also depends on some other factors. So you need to read the website and find out what are the university requirements. The main requirements will be similar, but there may be small differences. For one example, some universities will say we will not consider a GPA below this for your undergraduate degree. If that is the case, we will need a MS degree. And most of the US universities now require a 4-year degree. So if you cannot submit the complete transcripts by the application deadline, unless you are an absolutely exceptional student, where all your recommendation letters say you will be the next Nobel Prize winner, applying in third year is not going to be too practical. And I know that looking at the list of people who responded, majority is in after the graduation. it is better to be late than never. So if you are in graduate MS or MPhil program, you still have time to do that. And again, I think you heard that there is no time limit to start a PhD program. We have students starting at 60 plus years of age in US, because in state of Georgia now they give free tuition for retired people. So remember that part as the timings when you want to apply. But assistantship is one of the critical things most of our Sri Lankan students need. Most of the research one or highly research universities will give assistantship with admission in US. Canada may be different, and some specific universities may be different. And MS, focus on MS and focus more on undergraduate teaching universities will be different, because they will offer pure teaching assistantships for MS students. But these assistantships for fall applications, with the deadline of December to February or early March, will be the ones where those universities try to fill with all the good students. So for those places, spring numbers will be pretty low, and summer will be even hard. And if it is summer applications, it will have to be a research type appointment, research assistantship, which will come from the research advisor. And research advisor needs to push for that and get it done in most of the universities, especially at Georgia State. That is what happens. But you can do that. But you should not push for that upfront unless you get a positive response from the university. And if you start in the spring in a research-heavy university, there is another disadvantage to you. You may be the best student in your group of people in your university, but you are competing with the top people from all over the world in your graduate course. And in the graduate research-heavy programs, when we get all the graduate students, we offer the first graduate course, let's say quantum mechanics or some other basic introductory type course, the very first semester, which is the fall. If you come in the spring, the rest of the class have gone through that first course and they are familiar with the notations here and how they do things. The whole syllabus which will go through 1 month will be covered in 1 week. And you need to get used to that. So you will be at a disadvantage if you start in the spring. And then again, another thing is most of the universities have graduate admissions, graduate schools or admissions office. Now all the applications are online. So you submit the application online and it goes to the graduate school or graduate office, and they will not forward that application to the department until the application is complete. So if you don't have transcripts, especially the official transcripts will be needed for the completion, the graduate school will not forward the application to the department. And theoretically, the department will not know that you have even applied. Again, this is not to say that they will not look at. Each university, each department will be different based on how active the graduate director is. I used to do this. I used to call the graduate office and tell them, send me the list of all the applicants. Then they say, no, we'll send it to you when it is complete. I say, no, I want to see the whole thing. We will worry about that later. Then they send it to me, then I go through that. That is a lot of work. If the graduate director wants that, they can do that. We still do that. And then we go through the applications, and if the transcripts, recommendation letters and everything else is pretty good and the application is not complete because the fee is not paid, then we send an email to the student saying your application looks very strong. we cannot promise you admission, but we have a very high thinking that you might get a chance to get in if you complete the application. So now I'm getting to what you need to apply. So as I'm talking about that, transcripts will be the main thing. And in addition to the application, because when you submit the online application, that will ask you to upload or send other documents. And the transcripts will measure how you have performed over 4 years of time. So what is your effort, how your focus, all that is demonstrated in the transcript, not just one day, one morning or one afternoon effort. And now GRE requirements are going down. The most universities are saying it is not required. I'll get to that in a minute. So that means transcript becomes even more important. And if you are applying to a university which is familiar with your program, that means you had several of your former students working at that university, then that faculty knows how is your training is. So they will be very keen on looking at the transcript and maybe sometime even compare that. And that is a critical factor of the transcript. And if you are applying after a MS or during the MS, and if you say in the application you are doing MS, the university will want to see the official MS transcript too. In fact, this happens this last year. One of the students said that on the MS program going to finish in July. So the university hold on to the application without saying complete, and we could not give the offer until the University of Colombo sent the transcript for MS, which we had to plead with the university and talk to the dean and all that, and got that transcript done on special request earlier than what they usually do. And recommendation letters. And I have a separate question on recommendation letters, so I will go into more details. But main point I want to mention in this one is you need to help the faculty member to write the best letter, best accurate letter possible for you. That is the important part. You cannot expect the professor to spend all the time in the world and find all the important points and find what is the deadline and all that and work on that and send the letter. So it depends on how much effort you put on that. So we'll discuss that later. And fees, although fees may not be something very happy for you to see that, it is an important factor because the graduate admissions office, especially for state schools, the department has no say in the fees. Earlier days, we could waive the fees. Now sending an email asking for a fee waiver is not going to get anywhere. So without the fees, you will not get the application marked as complete. In fact, unless you are very rich or you have a very rich uncle or aunt or somebody, maybe some other options might be consider some of your friends who came here before, and or maybe talk to your graduate director whether he wants to look at your application unofficially and tell you. So that is the issue about the fees. Usually it ranges from 50 to 100 and mostly around 100 now, $100. And statement of purpose is another important thing, and I'm not going to talk about that because Dr. Premadasa will talk about that. Again, that needs to give the impression of your commitment and dedication to research work. So some other things, again, in the letters and statement of purpose, you might think that these things are important based on your thinking. But always remember throughout the application, what is important is not what you think is important. Look at the point of view from the person who is reading your application, among other things, and see how they would think, why is this important? So that is the main part. And CV or biography. And that can have your publications, patents, voluntary work, extracurricular activities, sports, all that. But you need to have a balance. If you have a lot of all these activities, but your transcript is weak, then the person who is reading is going to think that, oh, you are not focused on studies, you are focused on something else. So when you list things, you need to try to give the impression, why is this important for your graduate studies? If it is, let's say, if it is something like working in a group, that is important because as you become a senior student, you will be working with the other people throughout and also help juniors. So something like that, helping others is important. And showing commitment and how overcoming problems. Those things are, so that is something you need to think about when you are writing your CV or statement of purpose. And even if the university does not ask you to submit a CV because they get all the information in other places, you will need that possibly to get the recommendation letter, which I will talk to you in later. So if you have specific questions on what I said, you can ask that later. And also the last thing, TOEFL is a very important thing. TOEFL or IELTS. If you do not do well on that one, embassy will not issue you the visa and the university will not have much to say about that. Everything else, the graduate director can talk to the dean's office and see whether there can be any special condition. But for visa, no. But GRE, now we are saying GRE is not required. But if your transcript is weak, a strong GRE, especially the GRE general, subject. And also if you are looking for a teaching assistantship, because teaching assistantship means you need to prove that you know the subject matter to teach undergraduate labs. So having that is a plus, but it is not a requirement. I think I have covered all the bulleted points except two, which we will talk about later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Unil Perera. It's a very detailed information, which we'll talk in more detail also for some of the points. So, so just to remind, so that we have actually 235 participants on Zoom and also 40 participants on YouTube. So for the YouTube participants, you can use the YouTube chat window to actually put if you have any questions that you would like to ask from the panelists. And also in little bit time, maybe in a few minutes, we will post also a poll to get your demographic, like what institution you are, etc. So for our record, it will appear on your Zoom chat window. So please answer to that poll also while you are listening. All right. Thank you, Wasundara.
Yeah, a huge thank to our previous speaker. That was very informative. So we have another question now directed to Dr. Manatunga. How does a student decide on a university once you have all the documents that Dr. Perera suggested? And how many universities should a student apply to? And should they apply to a wide distribution of universities, different ranking, different reputations? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Manatunga? Sorry, you're muted.
Thank you, Wasundara.
Perfect.
Yeah, there is large number of universities in the USA. So the answer is it actually depends, you know. So you all are students from different fields. So it depends on field, students' portfolio and strength, as well as what students want to do afterwards. I think before even addressing these questions, it is better to reflect on those three things. You know, there are certain fields that are harder to get into. I can speak about Emory University where I work, like certain fields such as neuroscience, genetics. you apply to and you go directly work with some professor rather than applying to a program. Whereas statistics, mathematics, computer science, data science, and you apply to a program and take courses of 2 years, and then you start your research. For those fields who work directly with a professor, you may want to look for professors that match your interests. This is really important, and you can look at what you have done in the past and see whether your interests really match with the person that you plan to work. And you also want to find places that have secure funding. And without funding, it is really hard to afford the graduate education. So this is something really important. You can read the websites carefully and assess the professor's work. Most importantly, recent publications of the work and determine whether it is a good fit for you. So this way you can approach the professor after making an assessment. And for those apply to programs like mathematics, statistics, and so on, you really want to evaluate about the program that you want to do. Look at students' placements and outcomes if you can. For example, if you want to be a professor, you want to go to a place with a good record of academic student replacement. You can again read the website and figure out where their alumni work. If you don't know what you want to do, what you are going to do in the future, then look at programs that help you to figure out that. Meaning a wide range of placement, like in academia, government, and companies. As you know, the university admission is very, very competitive. So finding universities that you want to apply is a difficult task. So you actually never know where you end up. So first evaluate your record of strength. Look for places where you fit better with your strength. One way of doing this is to do some research about universities, meaning look at the type of the research and type of the students and research assistants in those programs. Are there Sri Lankans or Indian students in those programs? Where did they graduate from? And what are their level of achievements? What type of research are they conducting? You may want to even contact Sri Lankan students and ask about the program. And read blogs and ask questions from graduate students. Like any other social media, you may want to make wise decisions based on those blogs. So this way, you can make a preliminary assessment of your chance of getting a fair admissions to certain universities. So in terms of applying, I would say consider a wide range, like a good program to outstanding programs. And depending on your strength and your record, you may determine the range of schools that you have a fair chance of getting into. Don't apply into only high-ranking students. You may not get in, and also some of these universities may not even heard of Sri Lanka. So don't limit yourself only applying to the very high top-ranking universities, and unless you only want to go only those universities, And so consider a wide, decent range, easy to hard based on your assessment. And traditionally, I would say apply to 8 to 10 schools if possible. Of course, this depends on your financial situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manatunga. Can't hear you, Sachith.
Sorry about that. Computer is giving trouble. So, okay. So let's move on to the next question. This question is directed to Dr. Harshica Fernando. So we have, I have personally got questions like my GPA is like marginal to the requirement. So do I have a chance of applying to graduate studies? So I think it's a common problem among some of the students who are like enthusiastic to come to grad studies, but for some reason the undergrad GPA is a little bit marginal or close to the requirement. So is there anything they can do to be a better applicant?
Yes, Sachith. So that's a good question. So the first thing which I recommend is to get your transcript evaluated. So to do an evaluation, there are many organizations that they do. These are some examples. So I'm the current graduate coordinator in our university. So I get the transcripts evaluated from these places. But again, you have to check the university website, because some universities have their own organization. They say you have to get the transcript evaluated through this institution. So check the website, but the message is get the transcript evaluated. The reason being, when the evaluation is done, this may boost your GPA than what you see currently. And when we talk about the GPA, there are two types of GPA that we look at. One is the overall GPA, and the other one is the last 60 credit hour GPA. So most of the time, the last 60 credit hour GPA is you have done work based on your major. So sometimes the lower GPA may have come from like 1 or 2 courses you did in your first year or second year. So once the transcript is evaluated and you have a better GPA in the last 60 credit hours, that will help like the evaluators to see this student is a good student. I'm sorry. So check different universities. Like the previous panelists mentioned about this. There are US and Canada have many different universities and their GPA requirements are different. So you don't have to apply for a PhD program directly. As Dr. Premadasa mentioned, the key is to get your foot in. So to get your foot in, MS is fine. Once you do, like once you are here, you get your MS, you can go to a university of a dream university, like of your choice. So our university don't have a PhD program in chemistry. So we have international students coming in, and the international students, after they get their master's degree, they do well, and they go to R1 institutions, like, and Dr. Perera mentioned about the R1 and R2 institutions. So if the university doesn't have a PhD program and their chemistry department is large, still you can get some kind of assistantship, even if you are doing a master's. Some professors, they have their own research funding. So through that, you can get an assistantship. The next thing is you have to do well in your GRE and English exams. So even if your GPA is marginal, it's evaluated, and if you do well in your GRE subject score, that will show you are a good student. So I mentioned about applying for a master's first. You can, if even, you know, some of you are already in masters, doing masters or MPhil back in Sri Lanka. So if you do well in your masters or MPhil, that helps you to get into a university. Doing research and publishing, it can be a paper or a presentation at a conference that shows that you can do well, and always reach out to the graduate coordinator. So graduate coordinators are sending like replies when you inquire about the graduate program, what needs to be done. And the main thing is, if your dream is to do graduate studies, you need to be push on it. Just don't give up. It's never too late. There is no age barrier, or like, you may be a graduate, like just graduated, or like have graduated a couple of years ago. But if you have a dream, you should apply and work towards it.
Thank you, Dr. Fernando. That was a very important message to the audience. SOP, or the statement of purpose, sometimes we call it as a research statement or personal statement, one of the very important documents in the application package. Could you talk to that, Dr. Premadasa, please? Can you explain how to write a good SOP and what should the students include in their SOP to make it a good SOP?
Thank you, Wasundara. I'm glad to have got an opportunity to talk about this. So I will start by actually saying, now when last time when I went to Sri Lanka, actually, sorry, the poll keeps coming. Okay, so last time when I went to Sri Lanka, never before that I have heard the word SOP. And people are saying that, okay, what about the SOP? What about the SOP? How do, is that important? It's almost, it kind of made me sound like SOP is a piece of paper that can be written, like that can be shared, or, very simply, right? SOP, why not use ChatGPT to write my SOP, research purpose, right? I mean, that's what some of you must be thinking. Well, I hope not, right? Must be thinking right now. The thing is, people in the United States also now know that students might try to use GPT to write their SOPs. And that is all wrong, my friends. That is all wrong. If I look at my life, there are two decisions that I took which actually made a huge change in my life. First was finding a partner in life. Second was actually selecting your future area of study and research. Right? Okay, those are the two things which made a lasting impact across 6 decades of my life. Now, what is the statement of purpose? The statement of purpose is like your story. It is your story. Now, I will tell you something which I wrote in my statement of purpose. I decided to do mathematics, right? But I started mathematical thinking at a very young age. So that is where you should start. Go back to your childhood and mention where the passion began. And I will tell you, it is very important to customize it. Because if you don't customize it, there's a good chance people might think that this was written by ChatGPT. So how did I customize this? Well, at that time, there was no AI, nothing. But I actually started my mathematical passion when my grandmother used to read this newspaper called Budusarana. I don't know if they're still there. And they had a crossword puzzle. And she had difficulty filling the crossword puzzle. And I helped her, not with the subject, but the strategy as to how to fill in the various rows and columns. And then I actually started doing Theravidi, the riddles. And I was very good at it. And I like doing them. And then I do these little logic problems like crossing the river. And soon, it became to me that I actually like solving problems. And that is where it started. So when I actually mentioned some of those in my research statement. And what that did was it actually customized the statement. Because nobody in the world knows about how I started my mathematical thinking. Right? I mean, it is customized to my home, my grandparents. So customize it. And then I wrote about how, the advanced level examination and how difficult it is. And I put numbers. So many people do the advanced level examination And then so many of these people actually get past the examination, and out of that, so many, only a few get selected to the University of Colombo Faculty of Science. And even from that, a very small margin gets selected to do mathematics special. So actually I wrote it like that. It looks very, and then, to be frank, after I wrote this, I kind of looked at it and said, wow, this is so incredible. Am I that good? No, not really, but that is impressive. So if you want to impress the panel, write about your achievement without any false modesty. And then I would like to, and then what I did was going from there, right? I would like to mention how you actually nurtured your interest. So if you did an undergraduate project in your area, like in chemistry and biology, in physics, or even in mathematics, there are my undergraduate research projects which are available. So if you did those, that would be a good chance to show that you actually continued with your passion. You're continuing. It is not something which started 2 years back. It came from your childhood all the way. So mention any undergraduate research projects you have done. If you have not done any, ask a professor or a teacher to give you a topic to work on. And you can say that I am actually currently working on this project. You don't need to have a publication or anything like that. And here's number 4. So one of my students at University of Colombo, when he was applying for graduate studies, they said something about his English knowledge is not up to par to get an assistantship. So, what he did was, it's kind of interesting. He went across the university to the English department at the Faculty of Arts, and he asked the English department head, can you come and look at my teaching and give me a report, right? And it was so, but you can imagine the courage he had to do that, right? And the innovativeness. And the English department head said, okay, I'll come. And she actually came to the other side and stood in his math class and actually watched him teach and gave a report. So those are really important, because eventually, especially for, of course, for PhD programs like mathematics, you will end up being a teaching assistant at least at the beginning. So they are looking for good teachers, because otherwise the students complain, and it's chaotic when students complain. Okay, so try to put some of that. And then, hey, you know what? This is something I'm grateful to Dr. Unil for saying that. Tell about how difficult it was for you to come to this stage, the challenges that you faced, right? Okay, and then actually one of the biggest challenges that I faced was not economics, actually, because there was so much social pressure for me to do engineering. So actually I selected to do mathematics, right? You can mention that. I was so, and then if you're coming from a village school, right, you can talk about how difficult it was to learn the subject in the village school. There was not enough equipment, there was not enough computers. And then you can talk about the recent electricity problem, that there were electricity cuts in my house almost daily, and it was impossible for me to look at a computer. So to mention about the economic hardware, and that actually shows a very important quality called resilience, because what happens in a PhD program is that you will be doing a research project, which will look very difficult at the beginning. So if you just, oh, this is so difficult, I'm going to go back and turn away, they don't want you. What they want is they want resilience people with resilience. That means people who will keep coming back and attacking. I am going to achieve this. I'm going to get my goal. So show that you have that resilience by showing how much the economic hardships that you had, and mention your short-term and long-term goals, right? I mean, tell that your short-term goal is to get a PhD or a master's degree from a reputed university in Canada or the United States, right? And then that was your lifetime dream, right? Okay, and then say that after doing that, I'm going to either join the industry, right? Or I'm going to join the academic, because I have a lab for teaching and research, right? And mention those short-term and long-term goals. So the key thing is, please do not use ChatGPT to write this, because it cannot customize it. You have to mention how it started, right? Your family, right? What exactly are the instances? You should mention the name of your village school and the village that you grew up. And so how remote it is, right? Okay, so mention names and make it customized and tell your story, not somebody else's story. Why is that important? Because you are going to live with it. When you're 60 years old, you are still going to live with the passion that you have. So mention your story and not somebody else's story. So start from the very beginning, from where I started, and go to the future and tell about what your plans are in the long run and the short run. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to answer this very important question, Vasu.
Thank you, Dr. Premadasa. It is very important question, and I hope it will be very helpful for the students. Thank you again. So next question is directed to Dr. Arunika Gunawardena. Dr. Gunawardena, so this question is, I find it very important because myself also didn't know that we can contact professors at the time we were applying. So, so our question is, do I need to contact professors? If so, what is the best time of the year to contact professors? So, and how can a student write a good email to a professor? Who, so can you please explain on that points?
Yes, Sachith. It's a very good question. Yes, I highly recommend contacting professors, especially if you plan to apply for a thesis-based master's or a PhD program. Because at one stage of your application process, it asks whether you have found a supervisor to support your studies and funding. So if you have no supervisor, more frequently what happens, your application is rejected. So it's always better to find a supervisor before applying to graduate school. So next question is, what is the best time of the year to contact professors? You can contact professors at any time. The next question is, how do I write a good email? So before writing a good email, you need to identify potential supervisors. So how can I find a potential supervisor? So visit the website of the faculty, department, school that offers your program to find out current faculty members with your research interest. Once you have found a couple of potential supervisors, then you need to read a few of their publications to learn more about their research. That's very important for you to formulate a research question. Then you need to decide which ones look suitable for your research interest. So then you have, I don't know, you can make a list and maybe you decide, okay, I'm going to write to first 5. So then you have to send a clear and concise email explaining that you are planning to apply for graduate studies and looking for a supervisor. So you can briefly include your research interests. So that's why I told you at the beginning, like you need to read few of their research papers to understand currently what's happening in their lab. So you will be able to get a good idea to formulate a research interest or question. If you have experience, yes, include them. Like say that you completed your honors, so you are a current honors student. You can include all those things. It's always better to attach an unofficial transcript. You can send the official one later, and your like a short CV, maybe 2 pages or so. If you have any publication presentations, include everything. So I will tell you, for example, as I told you at the beginning, my lab works on the program cell death in plant development. So if you send me an email telling that you want to do graduate school in my lab to study program cell death in plant development, honestly, I don't know whether I will be interested in responding to your email. But if you send me an email telling that, you are really interested in this particular research question in PCD and you are looking for a supervisor and you would like to do graduate studies, I will definitely consider emailing and asking follow-up questions. So what happened, those questions will help you actually draft a good research statement or good research proposal. So it's so important actually you spend some time before you start writing to professors. Sometimes I have seen students send the same email to all the professors in the department. Don't waste your time, honestly, writing to all the professors in the department at the same time. You need to select which ones actually matches with your research. So if you don't hear from them, within 2 weeks or so, you can send a gentle reminder. If not, then you have to try more people in the area that you are interested. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gunawardena. I think it's very important for the students. Wasundara?
Yeah, this discussion brings our memories back to from the time that we were students and applying for graduate studies. Yes. Reference letters are sort of a document in the application package that speaks to our abilities to complete a PhD or master's from the perspective of a professor, how they look at us, what's their judgment. So it is very important, I assume, having the ideal reference letter that can support your admission. So Dr. Perera, could you please speak to this matter and specifically how to request for the ideal reference letter that supports the admission, and what should a student ask from their professors to focus in the reference letters specifically?
Thank you again, Wasundara. So as I said before, I want to emphasize, starting with the same statement. You need to help the person who writes the letter to write the best possible letter for you. You cannot expect the person to spend all the time. Consider yourself, how busy you are. The faculty member will be even busier. He or she has a lot of demands. You will have mostly your studies, assuming that you are not working elsewhere. But the faculty member will have family responsibilities, university, other activities, committees and all that, and then a lot of student questions, all those things. So how do you get to know the faculty member? That will make sure that he or she is going to spend some time on your letter. Get to know the faculty member doesn't mean you have to have chit-chat with about the family or family life or whatever they were doing in the weekend. But you need to focus on your classes, participation in the class when the lecture is there. Don't disturb him during the lecture every time asking questions. Find out from him how he would like to have the questions. Maybe you can raise your hand. If he says yes, you can ask that. If he does not say that, maybe he will later on say, okay, I saw your hand going up. What is your question? Each faculty member will be different. Some may allow you to disturb at any time. Some may want you to wait until he or she finishes some part of the lecture or come to some stop. And be punctual and don't come late to the class. In fact, when I was a student at Colombo, I remember we had Sinhala version of the main lecture in the afternoon in math. I think maybe Professor Premadasa probably know Dr. Atale. One student came half an hour late. He stopped the lecture and asked, so do you think this is your grandmother's tea party? And that was what he said, and asked the student to leave. So I don't think that will happen in most of the time now, but they will not be too happy if you are coming late and submitting homework and all that. Try to talk to your person from the very beginning. I know it will be late for some of you because you are now third year, but it is, as I said before, not too late. Better late than never, emphasizing that same statement again. So third year means you are doing special. So at least get all the people who will be teaching you in special courses to know you well. And so maybe that way, so most of the universities will ask for 3 letters normally, maybe some places will 4. So you need at least 3 letters. If you are applying for 10 places, that means 30 letters. Each person will have to write 10 letters. If you don't help them and if they don't know you, they are going to send the same letter to all 10 places. Now think that you are applying to different places. I will take my area as the example, and it is common for any other area. It can be chemistry or biology or anything. Even if you say molecular biology or neuroscience or something or condensed matter, there are so many different specific research projects under that. So in condensed matter, you can be doing optoelectronics and infrared detectors, or as nanoscience, or specifically quantum materials, or even more specific, saying graphene. So if you are picking different universities and focusing on the research professor, which Dr. Gunawardena talked about before, and at one place you are talking about quantum materials, specifically graphene, and in another place, not graphene, but molybdenum, selenide, or some other quantum material. So if that is the case, you want your recommendation letters, people to write something about that. And I think Dr. Premadasa talked about, if you have not done some research, talk to your advisor and find out whether you can get a project. Maybe you cannot get a project on one of these new materials, but you can talk to the person in your department along in that quantum materials or condensed matter area about these new materials. So he knows that you have some interest in this, and in the letter, he can mention that. And also, if you have 4 or 5 or 6 people, possible people to write letters, you don't have to ask the same person to write all the letters. You can customize which one goes where. Why am I saying that? You may apply to, let's say you are applying to Georgia State or Emory or some Canadian university, Dalhousie or some other place. There have been some other Sri Lankan students from your institute gone there, and you know some particular faculty member has wrote that recommendation letter who was successful. Then you might want to see whether you can get a letter from that person. That doesn't guarantee you that you will get in, because that depends not only the recommendation letter, but your transcript too. Assuming you have similar transcripts, that should help. And that is another important thing is to consider. And so that means you can talk to your students who may already have offers now, if you consider now, who will be coming in August. So if you are 3rd year students or 4th year students, you will know others who just finished and ready to come. And again, an important thing in the letter is waiving the rights. What does that mean? US is very big on freedom. So the application or recommendation letter say, will you waive the right to see the letter or not? So you can say, no, I don't waive the right to see the letter. That means once you are here, you can sue the university and ask for the letter. So if that is the case, most of the faculty, when reading the letter, will interpret that as saying, did this person who is writing the letter is free to write really the status of the student? So I'm sure you are not going to sue, or you are not interested in seeing the letter. So it is better for you to say, I will waive the right, although it is not really whatever, according to the ethical standards, you are free to request that, saying you do not waive the right. More than the letters required, that is the question you ask, I think. Uploading the application and the recommendation letter links will have a limited number. If they say 3, it will have 3 places. And usually, if you list the names, they will send, some universities will send the email to the faculty member. So you cannot ask people or give them the link to upload more letters. But let's say you can still do that. Having more letters doesn't mean that you are adding value to that. It might sometimes go against you, saying you do not follow instructions. So even before getting in, you don't follow instructions. What are you going to do once you are in? And now the issue is, what if you have 3 letters where 1 letter is not that great? So let me say how, in some more details about how you try to make sure you get a better letter. So I told you about cultivating a connection with your faculty members. So after some time, once you get to know them close to the application, when you have decided what schools you are going to apply and what are their deadlines, go to those faculty members and tell them, this is my plan. And I'm planning to apply with these deadlines. So they want the letters by this date. I would really appreciate you giving me a recommendation letter. And I'm trying to give you my CV. I can give you a transcript if you want, or remind you the grades I got in your class, and whatever else you want. But I would also like to tell you a little bit about what I think my unique qualities or my problems I overcame, if you really like. What do you think? Do you want something else? And when do you want it? So find out all that information. And when you know that, send them one full PDF file or something, everything in one file. So again, ask them what is the best option. If they want separate Word files, that is fine, because they can cut and paste easily. So what I'm trying to say is, you should not do what you want. You should do what they really like you to do to help them to get to that. And that way you can avoid these mediocre letters. So now for mediocre and good letters, I'll give you 2 examples. As the graduate director, I have seen letters from some places, luckily not from Sri Lanka, where the only difference was the name of the student. Everything was identical. And after a while, then when looking at that, I realized, okay, it is from the same university, same program, let's say physics program, obviously, for me. Then after that, I don't even read that letter from that person, because no point reading that, because it is the same thing if I read one. And we will not penalize the student for that, but you are not getting any benefit out of that letter. We have to worry about something else, transcript or some other letter. But as Dr. Gunawardena mentions, students do the same thing. I get emails, just as she mentioned, I get an email saying, oh, I really like your research area. I read the website, blah, 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 and all that. And sometimes they don't even say what I'm doing, although they say read the website. But sometimes they say, oh, I really like condensed matter applied to real life situations. And then in the admissions committee, I tell the director, oh, this guy, when we discuss some student, this guy sent me an email. And the other faculty member says, oh, we have the same email. So now, if I have some, so I think Dr. Arunika mentioned that. As the graduate director, when I was the graduate director, it was my duty to respond to all the emails. Although I'm not too happy, I respond very short email to any letters like that. And because of my habit, I still try to respond with a quick email to that type of letters, but I don't spend too much time on those emails. So I am emphasizing the same fact, and I'm agreeing 100% with that earlier comment. And so don't make these mistakes. When we were applying, we didn't have email. I applied in 1981. And we had to send hard letters. And we gave the professor a stamped, addressed envelope with the hard copy to write the recommendation letter. And you will not be able to see the letter, so you don't know really what they write. So it is important to cultivate the connection So they spent some time to write you a letter. And let me come to the positive letter. Again, as the graduate director, if there was a student applying from Perera Physics, I will look for this particular faculty member's letter. Sometimes, if everything else is good, I send an email to this faculty member saying, I know you were not one of the recommendation letters for the student. Can you tell me something about that? And this person is now retired. So that's why I'm telling you this particular person, because some of you may know. And this person once sent me a recommendation letter for a student who just did a 3-year general degree with a first class. And the university said, no, we cannot admit him. It is a 3-year degree. Ask him to do MS. But this letter was so strong, I went to the dean and justified to the dean that we need to admit him. And I'm happy to say that that student ended up working with me, and now he is a senior scientist in a DOD Research Institute in US and a group leader. And his advisor, who was the science advisor for the whole branch of the DOD, once told me, oh, Unil, you have anybody like this? Send it to me. That is a power of that good letter. But again, you don't know what the letter, whether it is good or not. So that is why that earlier part I said is important. And I emphasize the emails. We talked about contacting the US professors. Again, the same thing is true. Talking to your Sri Lankan professors too. But they are busy. Don't overdo that. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Don't try to show that you know the material. And but you need to make sure that they are helpful to your case. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Perera.
Okay, so next question I'm directing to Dr. Premadasa. Dr. Premadasa, so the question is, do we need to apply for financial assistantship separately? But before giving you the chance to reply, so let me combine that with 3 other questions that we got from the chat window, so we can actually save the time for that. So one person asked, like, she completed she graduated in 2015 with major in IT, applied maths, and currently working as a physics teacher. And she's wondering she has a chance to he or she has a chance to get a fully funded scholarship to US or Canada. The person is worrying about the age. And also another person asks, okay, we need to write to the supervisor first, but how could I apply for a scholarship? Is it given by a supervisor or university? And also, third question that came related to this is, how do we suggest can we suggest good universities to apply? Probably later we can provide that kind of thing if needed. But again, the person asked how to apply for fully funded scholarship program. So seems like this is a question that need to be answered for a lot of students. So I hope you can answer it well. Thank you.
So thank you. So for those, first of all, thank you for those questions. So one thing I kind of got an impression that people use the word scholarship a lot in all these questions, right, Sachith, right?
Yes.
So maybe perhaps I think I should first explain the model, right, before getting into these questions. The US and Canadian universities, I'm not very sure about Canadian, but I'm sure Dr. Gunawardena will agree with me. We don't really offer scholarships as per, right? A scholarship is actually, in Sri Lankan terms, it is actually a word. You are giving something to somebody, right? So now grade 5 scholarships and grade 7 scholarships, it's like a free ride that you are giving to somebody. The model here is not like that. The model here is win-win. Okay, so now let me explain to you what the two types of assistantships that we give: teaching assistantships and research assistantships. So a teaching assistantship is something like that. So when you apply to come to the United States through a teaching assistantship, okay, so you make a request to an assistantship from the department. Now, if the department is a service department, what is the service department? Like mathematics, it has a lot of courses for first year and second year students, right? And now remember, it is not economic for the university to hire professors to teach. Like, for example, there are 50 calculus sections, right? So to teach 50 calculus sections, if you hire professors, you have to pay a lot of money. You have to pay at least $6,000 a month, right, to pay for that professor to teach those courses. So instead of doing that, they come up with a win-win situation. What is the win-win situation? They ask you to come in and do the PhD free of charge. And they will tell you, okay, we are going to give you the PhD free, but you need to teach these two courses. And for returning to teach those two courses, we are going to pay you a stipend, which will make you happy, which will be enough money for you to have a comfortable life. So can you see the win-win situation? That is the model. And it doesn't have to be teaching, it can be research. For example, if a professor has a research grant and is looking for a research assistant to work with the professor, then the stipend will be from the research grant. So always it has to be a win for the university as well as a win for you. I think that is the answer to the first question. When you say fully funded, it is very unlikely. I think it is still possible, right? That a university will give you everything free, right? I mean, tuition and their tuition for the PhD, as well as a stipend, as well as cost of living. But it is what the model that is really workable is you get your tuition free and the university gets to hire you at a cheaper salary to teach their undergraduate courses or to do their research. So I think, Sachith, is that a reasonable answer for that question about fully funded?
Yeah, that is. But so following up, so the one other student also has a question like, is it necessary to work as a TA or RA in Sri Lanka to eligible for TA RA position while doing MSc, PhD in US or Canada?
No, actually, so I think, so the word TA and RA may be not so valid in Sri Lanka. So it can happen either way. Now, when I actually went to USA to do my PhD, I worked as an assistant lecturer in the Department of Mathematics for 1 year. But actually, the people who are in the same batch as me left to do the PhD in the United States straight after their graduation. Right. And so there is no requirement for anybody to work as a TA or RA. However, right, if you have work, use that for your benefit, right, in your statement of purpose to get some added volume to that. There is no strict requirement, but if you have done it, go for it. Add it to the maximum ability. Does that answer that question, Sachith?
Yes, that's right. So if I can clarify, so the assistantship, if we give them a little bit more information, that means depending on the university, when they give assistantship, they will cover your total tuition, give the health insurance, right, Professor Premadasa? And
you have to be a little careful. I think Dr. Unil mentioned this point very clearly yesterday when we had a little briefing, right? Because, I mean, strictly speaking, right, okay, they have to cover your tuition, right? And they have to give you a stipend. But sometimes, right, they do marketing. They will say, okay, we are going to give you $70,000 per year. And that is, wow, that is so exciting. But they have actually secretly added the tuition cost to that $70,000. So make sure, so when I was at Purdue, the tuition was free. I was given a stipend for teaching undergraduates, but the health insurance I had to pay. So those things, right? You have to those things. Make sure that they are covered in some way or the other. Make sure that your tuition is covered, and you are given a stipend for your teaching or research. And also check the health insurance, because that is a considerable amount. Make sure that you check this. There's nothing called, you have to do it. Sometimes, marketing comes into the action, and you need to be very careful before you read the lines. Does that answer is a reasonable answer?
Yes, that's good. So the Dr. Premadasa also that like applying for financial assistantship, normally there is a question in the application itself just to check, right? Or do they need to contact the department separately about that? How is the usual procedure?
So I think what happens is, again, it really depends on the university, because it's very clearly if you go to the department, right, and the website, right, and it tells you how to apply, it will tell you, because some universities, I think others can join in here, right, okay, and so I think some universities just say that, hey, you know what, we will not give you admission without an assistantship. If you are giving you admissionship, the assistantship is secured. Other universities might say that the admission is separate from the assistantship, and they might sometimes give you a tuition waiver without any assistantship and maybe a grading position. It all depends, I think, on the universities. So at this point, I would like everybody to chip in a little bit. Am I telling it correctly?
Yes, Kirthi. Yeah, we in physics at GSU will not admit any student for PhD physics program without the full assistantship.
Yeah, so Kirthi, we do provide at Emory scholarships actually. So our graduate students receive 3-year full tuitionship and the support, financial support paid. So for 3 years. So after that, they have to find their own funding, doing research and collaboration and teaching, So there are some universities who provide scholarships, but it is rare, I would say.
Okay. Yep. So Sachith, as for a last question, somebody wanted, I think this is a burning question for everybody. How do you start? Okay, so once this is because people need a place to start, right? After this webinar, right? And then I said, oh, all is good, but how do I start? So they need to find out like what are the good universities to apply. Well, it's a process, right? You need to find that out slowly, but a good place to start would be, so for example, look at a conference, right? Say the Big Ten conference in the US, right? Okay. And that will have a number of universities, all of them will offer assistantships, right? But go to one university and just go to your favorite department and check the requirement and get a start, right? And that is how you get things started. But as far as the others, look for the places where Sri Lankan students have gone before. Like I know for Purdue, I think Dr. Amita would agree, has a long line of Sri Lankan students who actually got PhDs from Purdue, and Dr. Unil, Pittsburgh also, right? Okay, has a long line of Sri Lankan students, right, who took PhDs from Pittsburgh. So look at that, do some research to find out where have Sri Lankan students gone before. But a good place, just look at some of the big conferences and then look at the universities and then just start. I mean, that's a reasonable way to get started. Do it today evening, or tomorrow morning, just like that.
Yeah, that's great, Dr. Premadasa. Okay, let's move on to the next. Thank you very much, Dr. Premadasa, for your insight. So we can come back to this again in the Q&A session. So let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, so now let's say after following all the things that our experts have been suggesting for about an hour and a half now, and then we get the offer, which would be amazing. And then if we get multiple offers, which would be amazing, then having just one offer. So if I get multiple offers, how should I select the best university that suits me? And if I receive a better offer after accepting another offer, what can I do and what should I do? Any thoughts on that, Dr. Fernando?
And thank you, Wasundara, for posting the question. So first, I will go with the first question. If I receive multiple offers. So as Wasundara mentioned, it's great. You have done all that was discussed previously. Now it's time to select. So one thing you got to remember is having an offer letter to pursue graduate studies doesn't guarantee you get your PhD. You have to work for it. So you have to work for it Dr. Arunika mentioned, you have to be dedicated, you have to do research, and it's not a 9-to-5 job. So it's a long, lengthy process. In US, average 5 years, you're committed to it. So you have to read the offer letters carefully. In the offer letter, it will tell you have to accept the offer on or before this date. And you need to check the deadlines. So there are deadlines. There is a national deadline, which will come in the next slide. But some universities, they have deadlines before the national deadline because they want to see who are the students who will commit to coming to that university. Because remember, each university have number of spots which they want to fill in. So they give offer letters, and if you decline, they want to give the offer to another student. Then you need to see, is the research interest that you are passionate about is available in the university that you have the offer letter. The rank of the university. So when we talk about the rank, US and Canada, we have a wide variety of universities, whether it's R1, R2, and then there are various categories the universities are ranked. So when you go to a top ranked university, the research groups are large. Large research groups, sometimes you may not be able to see your supervisor very frequently. You will be put under, as an incoming student, under somebody. So those things you need to write to past students. I think this was mentioned by previous panelists. Do research on the university and see how the university or the professor that you like to join operates. Then on that, you need to think about publications, because after you get your degree, the next thing is to do a job, whether it's in industry or academia. How successful is finding a job when you do research in that group? Then the time period. See, some professors say, when you you go talk, okay, my average time is 5 years. I remember when I was a grad student, we had to do rotations. I really liked that professor, but he said, I will pay you, but you need to stay 6 to 7 years. So I was on study leave. I didn't want to spend 6 to 7 years. So I wanted to finish within 5 years. So I didn't I didn't join that group. So you need to check the time, because when you do your PhD, you have to do, in US, you had to do some coursework and then research. So after you finish your coursework, it's all research. It's a long process. So you have to be on it. You cannot quit halfway, then all the goal is gone. And the PhD qualifying process. So just getting admission doesn't mean you are just a PhD student. In universities, they have either qualifying exams or some process of being qualified as a PhD student. So you need to have an idea what this is, because when I applied many years ago, I didn't know. As Dr. Perera said, we didn't have internet to communicate. So you come, only reference was if there was a previous student, and if they came on vacation, you can ask how is the university, and what is the process. But now you have access. So reach out to students, Sri Lankan students, or any other student, and see what the process is. Then about the stipend, I think Dr. Premadasa mentioned about this. The stipend in the offer letter, it is mentioned. Check if the stipend includes summer support, tuition fee waiver, health insurance, and the cost of living. So the cost of living in different states, different cities are different. And one thing, again, thinking back, when I got the offer letter, I was so happy. Okay, I get this much of dollars, but nowhere it mentioned that they will take out tax. Okay, so depending on the state, you can have like federal tax they take out, and then depending on the state, they will take out state tax also. So you don't get what is mentioned in the offer letter. Then weather. So some of you may want to stay in warmer weather, some in, doesn't mind as long as you get into a school. So this is optional. If you can, if you want to decide, and if you have like multiple offers, you can think about that. Then spouse. Initially, you may come by yourself. Later on, you may have a plan to bring your spouse. So think what he or she is going to do. Is she going to go to school or to do a job? What are the available options? So these you can do research and find out, because graduate student salary is not a lot. So you can survive, yes, but it's good, like, if you have some support from your spouse. Diversity, that's again optional. And I think I mentioned these publications from the group and years towards the degree. I think that's all I have on that regarding that. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so I mentioned we have a national deadline. So national deadline is April 15th. So if the offer letter says a date before that, and you have applied to multiple schools, like you have offers now, and you can see what the deadlines are, write to the graduate coordinator and see if you can get the extension until April 15th. Sometimes you may not be successful, but it's always good to try. Because once you sign the offer letter and you send it, now you have a contract. So you are bound to that school. So later on, you get a better school and you like that school better than the one you accepted. You cannot just move on. You have to contact the school that you signed the contract with and see if they will release you. This is very important because we don't want to make a bad reputation of Sri Lankan students accepting offers and not going, because this will prevent the schools giving offers to students after you apply. They will not rely on Sri Lankan students. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fernando. Just a follow-up question to that. So this is the positive side. It's great when we hear. There's nothing like hearing from a graduate program once you apply. But what if we don't hear anything from the university after applying, and how should a student communicate with the university sort of to inquire politely about the status of our application? And most importantly, when should we do that if we do not hear from a university?
Is that towards me, Wasundara? Hello.
Yes, or anyone else.
Yeah, so, you can normally graduate coordinators reply. So you can write to the graduate coordinator to see if the application has come. You mean after receiving the offer letter, right?
No, like if
no.
we do not hear from them, when would be a good time to inquire, like politely ask about the status of my application, what happened with my application, sort of a thing?
See, normally the admissions, kind of the offer letters go, like some universities do it on a rolling basis. So whenever you get it, they give the offers, but by January, like for fall admissions, January, March, the offer letters are gone. So you can just write and ask either the graduate coordinator or the graduate school. Maybe Dr. Perera will have more insight on that. Then.
Yeah, I can add something to that. Thanks, Harshica. So if you apply to GSU through the GSU online portal, you will have a login which you can access throughout. And the graduate school will update the situation, whether your application is complete. Once the application is complete, it will say the graduate director has looked at that and they have a meeting on this date. And that the first letters of offers will be given on this date. So you will not know specifically, if you don't receive the offer letter, you will not know specifically you are getting that offer or not. But if the department has decided that we have rejected these people, you will know that you have been rejected by the department, but that will take another week or two for the graduate school to send the rejection letter.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the rejection in the website and there is no information, then it is better to check with the graduate director, as Harshica mentioned.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Perera.
Thank
And
you. Thank you, Dr. Fernando and Dr. Perera. Okay, so this will be the last question, the set questions we'll be asking, then we will go through the panel to add any additional thing, and then we will move on to the Q&A. So this question is directed to Dr. Manatunga. And can you tell us about, now we talked about a lot of various things, so can you summarize and give like final thoughts about the elements of a successful graduate admission application?
Yeah, thank you, Sachith. Yeah. So first of all, I think you received a lot of information today. So, I mean, there were great slides, I mean, I loved Harshica's slides, although she was talking only about, like how to accept an offer. Some of those informations are very, very useful in terms of doing research about university. So I want to say that first, So let me first start saying that I really want to first acknowledge that applying to school is hard work, So congratulations on being taking the first step for attending this session. You receive plenty of information that you can start with here today, So make sure you start early, organize well. This is very, very critical. Organize well and know the rules about the programs that you are applying. You heard from all of us, there are programs and there is diversity across programs. Diversity across programs in terms of funding, in terms of years of funding, and in terms of the research, and also in terms of what is expected you to do, whether it is a teaching assistant, whether it is a research assistant, and so on and so forth. So doing your own research is very, very important when you are applying to universities. So remember, you all have passed A-level exam in Sri Lanka. This is one of the hardest exams that I have ever encountered in any other school, so any other education programs. So you work very hard for passing the A-level exam. So why not work hard again? But in this case, you really have to be proactive. You have to do research, your own research in finding out the best program for you, asking questions, connecting with people, and networking with groups, and so on and so forth. So complete the application before the deadline, as it was mentioned here, and including the transcripts and the recommendation letter. This is your responsibility. And if the application is complete, in many programs, they are not reviewed. In that case, your time, your recommendation, recommender's time, and your money is wasted. So make sure that your application is completed, and then also start the process very, very early. So then the question of a successful application, as you may aware, in general, you have to have a good GPA and GRE scores, and so that certain programs require, and so on. Aside from that, you have heard today, you need a thoughtful SOP, which is realistic. Your SOP should reflect your research interest, possibly also your teaching interest and your passion, and that is well aligned with the current faculty research in the department that you are applying. There is no point talking about your own passion or research interest if that research is not conducting in that particular university. So in programs like statistics, computer science, data science, you don't have to have a full research proposal, but unless it is specifically requested in many programs, but you can talk about your strength, previous research work, and interest in a more general directions, and also mention that your desire to learn new things and who you are and who you want to be. Your motivation and your drive and your interest is really a critical aspect of completing graduate education. It's not only that they want you to admit you, they also want to make sure that you complete the study. So express properly. And transcripts show your technical skills mostly. So do not repeat the stuff that you have in the transcript unless, you know, in the personal statement, you know. Whether you received an A in, you know, pure mathematics is not important in the SOP. It has to be your own story, you know. And as you mentioned, good recommendation letters that mention your research exposure, creativity, and your desire to learn new things, and your drive would be very valuable in assessing your application. You know, I know you don't have much control of that because someone else writing about you, but remember, you can help them. You can provide information to the recommendation, the people who write recommendations letter, so that they can write those things effectively. And remember, they are writing many recommendation letters. If you provide your specific information, that would be helpful for them to write those things in that letter. You may want to highlight those aspects, meaning your creativity and your research exposure to the letter writers so that they can write about you. But you may want to do this in a more tactful manner, you know, because nobody wants to hear that write this letter for me and this is what should be included, you know. So make sure that you approach the faculty in a tactful way. Well-aligned research interest in the SOP, recommendation letters, and that speaks to your strength and would make a very successful application. And again, I think you have taken the first step today in terms of getting the information and narrow down your list of the focus on the program that you want to apply and determine the field, and then do the research by yourself and connect with people in those programs and get the information from the graduate coordinators, get the information from the students, because as you heard today, that there are lots of differences from different programs in terms of the assistantship, in terms of the funding, and in terms of whether it's included health insurance and whatnot, you know, tax and etc. But you can get those information through the graduate coordinator, and if you are proactive. So in this case, remember, it's not like you were taking advanced level examination. Your mother and father are not after you, and this is the time for you to be proactive and take responsibility and plan your future accordingly what you want to do.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Manatunga, for giving a nice, concise summary of the entire session, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate that. So we are moving toward the end of the session, and this would be the time that our experts will summarize anything or add anything else that they wanted to share with our students. First,
Yeah,
I
so
start with
I want to add that we will have a Q&A session. So please type your questions now. And of course, the Q&A session, you will get more information. So if you have time, still please join with us for Q&A session also.
yeah.
Go ahead, Wasundara.
Yeah. So let me start with Dr. Arunika Gunawardena. Dr. Gunawardena, if you have any final thoughts or anything you would like to add, and specifically if you could speak to the financial assistance and how that works in the Canadian system as well, that would be great.
Okay, I'm happy. Can you please go to the slide? Yes, so you learn a lot through all these members. Like there are slight differences, especially in funding the graduate program. So I will briefly mention it during my talk. So I'm taking Dalhousie University as an example because even within Canada, there are slight differences in funding. So if you plan to come to Dalhousie University to do your graduate studies, you will need to meet the Faculty of Graduate Studies minimum requirements as well as program-specific requirements. So let's first talk about Faculty of Graduate Studies minimum requirements. So if you are going to go for master's degree, then you have to have a 4-year bachelor's degree. Then minimum GPA is 3. I think they look at, especially if you don't have that GPA, they look at the last 60 credit of your study. And minimum language proficiency scores, either IELTS or TOEFL. So please visit the website if you wanted to get the exact number. I think TOEFL is 92, IELTS is 7. So PhD is also similar, like you need to have thesis-based master's degree or equivalent, and then GPA is 3 again, and then the again TOEFL and TOEFL or IELTS. So the next point is that very, very important. Could you please go to the next slide, please? Yes. So please remember, very, very important point is meeting the Faculty of Graduate Studies minimum requirement does not guarantee admission to all of your Dalhousie's graduate program. So you need to visit the appropriate department to explore what else they might actually need to qualify your application. So for example, let's take biology. So in my department, if you are interested in, we have 4 themes: cell and molecular biology, ecology and evolution, genetics and economics, and marine biology. So you need to pick the right theme for you. And remember, as I mentioned earlier, you need to write to the professors and find a supervisor for you. So that would help in your application process, because if, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have a supervisor, then your application will not be successful. So you complete the application form, and then you meet all the language proficiency score, scores, and official transcript. That's very, very important. And at least 2 academic references. You heard like really good, comments today, like how to get a good academic reference letter. So at least here we need 2. So I would ask at the beginning at least 4 and make sure that we will get at least 2. So a statement of research interest, that's very, very important. That's why I told you to find a potential supervisor, talk to him or her and get ideas, and then develop your research statement. So it's similar to SOP, but here in a research statement, you actually, it's a kind of a personal statement too. You can tell your story and tell why you are interested, why you are particularly interested of that research question. So you can you can actually share with your potential supervisor and get some feedback, and actually then submit the final statement to graduate studies. CV, make sure you include, make your complete CV, even if you are a undergraduate doing honors, and tell a bit about your research, like what's your thesis title, who is your supervisor, And if you have done even presentations in Sri Lanka, include all those things in your CV. And very, very, very important that supervisor has agreed to support your studies and funding. I think this is the place where it's a bit different from US system. In Dalhousie University, we have a couple of ways to support the graduate students. Either you get your stipend through your supervisor from his or her grant, that you will get your monthly stipend. Or if you have a GPA above 3.7, you are eligible for departmental scholarships. That means it's not fully funded, 50%. The other 50% is coming from supervisor's research grant. In Dalhousie University, it's a bit different from other universities. They can do teaching assistantships, but the money that they get from teaching assistantship is not part of your stipend. It's additional pocket money for you. So it's actually good for students, but it's not good for the professor, because you have to spend money as well as your time. They go and do the teaching work. Anyway, you are required to have minimum of 2 teaching assistantships. So for example, PhD students working in my lab, they do 2 or 3, and then they save their time to do more research. But if you want to do more teaching assistantships, yes, like you can get more money, then you have to think about, do I have enough time to do my actual research? And also, if you have 3.7 GPA, 3.7 or above, you are eligible to apply for Nova Scotia graduate scholarships too. Even international students, you are allowed to apply for graduate scholarships, Nova Scotian one. And also INSERC, they give international scholarships, actually like very prestigious scholarships. Say you have a couple of publications or presentations and you have a really high GPA, you have actually good INSERC PhD scholarships. So please remember one thing, please visit the website, because non-Canadians applications generally need to apply earlier than the Canadian applications. So don't miss the deadline. Go to the website, and we have actually 3 starting dates, September, January, and May also. So please make sure you actually check the deadline for international students. Yeah, so this is what I have to tell specific things for Canada, especially for Dalhousie, and I agree with all the other things the other speakers mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gunawardena. Dr. Fernando, any addition?
Wasundara, yeah, so let's, so since we have Q&A time also, let's remind the panelists that maybe we can limit to 1 or 2 minutes from now on, to go to the Q&A session.
Yeah. Dr. Fernando, any additional
just a brief thing, joining here means you want to do a high degree. So it's a dream. So pursue your passion, dream on it, and just do whatever it's needed. And good luck. Thanks.
Very sweet. Thank you. And Dr. Manatunga?
Yes, again, thank you for being here, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in this panel. And I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the audience. And I hope you received useful information today, and start working hard and find the best program for you and start applying. I also want to mention one more thing, and as I said before, there are lots of universities in the USA. So if your record is not perfect, not stellar, still you can consider in applying to the program. But at the same time, you may want to highlight your strength and find a way to express in SOP and so on and so forth. So don't get discouraged if your record is not stellar. There might be still places that you can apply in US. Good luck.
Yes. Dr. Unil, do you have any additional remarks?
Yeah, thanks, Sachith. So thank you for all for listening and organizing this. Maybe I'll emphasize 2 points which were discussed before, but give some additional clarification. 2 points were like changing the program from, let's say, maths to computer science or moving from MS to PhD. Those are very valid points, but if you are doing that, you need to make sure you pick the universities properly. Computer science is a very tough area now, a lot of applications. So the R1 universities in, let's say, for physics, we will not, if we detect the people are taking a lot more computer science courses as supported physics students, that is not good. So you have to pick the universities properly. If it is a MS only or teaching focus, that is a good place to start. That both ideas will work very well in those places. But I think you got a lot of information from everybody. It will be a lot to remember, but I think the CUFSAA is going to put it in the website, all the details. So good luck with everything, and never late to start things. So the age is not an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perera. Dr. Premadasa, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, the only thought that I have, well, first of all, you got a lot of knowledge and a lot of facts today, and probably some of you are very tired, right? Okay, but let me just point out something. In 2016, when I went to 2018, when I went to Sri Lanka for a visit, I gave with Dr. Osha of the CUFSAA also gave a presentation about the same topic to Colombo University science faculty students, and most of them actually ended up in the US, and they have already graduated. So I was feeling very great when I was looking at their Facebook posts, right? They did it. But sadly, when I used to talk to individual students in Sri Lanka who are already working and who are out of the university or alone in another university, I find that they have not exactly done that. And I think the reason is for this PhD program, the community helps. So if you are already attached to an institute or a university, right, you get a bunch of people together, some friends together, and say, okay, let's do this, right? And then have a schedule every day or every other day at 6 o'clock, we are going to meet and we're going to look at the universities. That will get the momentum going. And if you are, even if you are alone doing this, right, try to get some friends, right? It's easy at an institute, but even if you are doing as alone, set some time every day. The most important thing, the most difficult part, you may have listened to many webinars in the last 1 year or 2 years, so especially after the pandemic. The most difficult part is to start. So start today. And I leave you with a comment from a great American president, Abraham Lincoln. This is actually true. I lived this in my entire life. You cannot fail if you resolutely determine that you will not. So determine today that you will not fail, and you will do it, and start today, not tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Premadasa. So we are moving into the Q&A session. We got a lot of questions. So let's see whether we can get something going. And but what I would like to ask from the audience, especially who posted the questions, if you could please reply either to me or Wasundara directly your emails, and again, like repaste the question, so that if we cannot answer today, we will definitely send it to an expert, and they will get back to you promptly about your question. So I would, especially people who have longer questions and specific ones, I would like to request that you share your email as a direct message to either Wasundara or me, and we will make sure that you will get the answer. Thank you. Okay, so the this is to the all panelists now. So a lot of students, actually few students asked this question, like So they are currently in the 4th year, and so they are like waiting for semester exams to be held on August and February. So if we wait until 4 year finishes, they will miss the 2024 fall entrance. So so what can you do? What can you tell that kind of students how he or she should proceed? I think this might be a common problem because a lot of exams are postponed in Sri Lanka. So can you help with some kind of idea about that? Any panelist?
So maybe let me say something because it was along my question. This is Unil. Sachith, can I go?
Yes. Yes.
You can start applying because you are already either almost ready to do the final part of the 4th year. Hopefully, your deadline will be December or January, and by that time, the results should be out. So you can submit all your documents saying that and submit unofficial transcript saying that the official transcripts will be issued by the university when it is complete. So it is possible.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Unil. Wasundara, do you have any question that you would like to direct? You are muted, Wasundara.
Sorry. One question here to any panelist actually. As I know, we have to apply through the grad system when applying to USA universities. More information on that.
Again, it is not compulsory to apply through that, but that has a lot of universities in that. We and several other universities have their own websites in the graduate school website and the departmental website. So you can pick.
Thank you. Thank you. Sachith, we may have time for another one extra.
Next question is I think this was also asked by a few students. How much weight does go towards the final year undergraduate research in the selection process? I think they are referring to how probably that is relevant to any 3rd year student also who are going to select a final year undergraduate research. So can you tell a little bit more? Any panelist?
I can start if you like.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that final year honors research program is very, very important because that's the one give you actually good idea about whether you are going to enjoy the graduate school or not. So you can troubleshoot and you can work on your project. And if your project doesn't work, then you can critically think and see how I can develop my project. I think that's a wonderful start to, graduate school, like do a good honors or undergraduate project. And if you are in the 3rd year, definitely consider doing a good undergraduate project, and that would help you to decide whether you are a good candidate for a graduate school or not. You can present your research at one of the Sri Lankan conferences or meetings, and then maybe you will be able to continue your research, right? If you're really interested in that direction. So I would highly recommend to do your honors project if you have facilities to do.
Thank you, Dr. Gunawardena. What do you think, Sachith, in the interest of
We can
time?
go to 2 or 3 more questions. Wasundara, you can pick one.
Yeah, I can also add to that. Obviously, having research experience is a big plus, and you can speak to that, your experience and failures and how you overcame with it. And at the same time, for certain fields, it is not required. I mean, if you are following a mathematics PhD, if you have a stellar record of grades, and if you have taken a large, diverse topics of, courses and have performed very well, and having a research experience is not necessary. I mean, obviously it is a plus, but not necessary.
Yeah, so related to that, again, there is another view for that. There's a question like, is there any chance to get funded MSc or PhD program without undergraduate research?
Yeah, so I can answer that if you want.
Yes.
Unlike now, this may be different now, but I applied in 1987 after doing a mathematics special degree at University of Colombo. And when I applied, the mathematics special program at Colombo University in the fourth year did not have a research component at all. It was kind of sad. I would have loved to do one, right? Okay, but that was it. So, everybody who actually applied in our batch who got a first class or a second upper or even second lowest, they all got universities, right? But now the situation may have changed because there's a lot of undergraduate research going on, even at the universities. So I think I cannot really state now, but in the back in the day, it was possible actually to do, especially like an area like mathematics. Dr. Amita pointed that out. In an area like mathematics, right, where to be able to conduct right major research, you need to actually do grad level mathematics for at least 3 years before you start. But still, undergraduate research is very possible even after a calculus background. I mean, I have done several actually. If you look at what I have done at the University of Wisconsin, right? Okay, so nowadays, right, I don't know the situation, but certainly you can. Right, without having a research experience.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with Kirthi, but I also want to emphasize there are very few universities now without the possibility of doing undergraduate research. And especially I know some of the Pakistani universities do not have. If we have students from those places where they specifically state that there is no way they can do undergraduate research, and if everything else is very good, yeah, we will give a chance. But if there are a lot of opportunities to do that, then they need to indicate that in their statement of purpose or somewhere else why it is missing. Because especially like physics, biology or chemistry research, if they are going to do some research project for a PhD program, that is sort of a big measure of saying how they are going to perform in research.
Yeah, Sachith, can I add a comment here, please?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so if your university does not offer any honors program, and if you are really interested coming to graduate school, I would suggest you should at least try for independent research project with one of your professors, right? You don't need to have a sophisticated facilities to do that. Like, do your independent project and see how much you actually enjoy doing research by yourself. So that is one thing you could do if you don't have a honors program.
And can I add to what Dr. Gunawardena is saying? You don't have to restrict to Sri Lankan universities, right? If you have an interesting research, undergraduate research project, and if a student tells me, okay, I want to do undergraduate research on how to cut a gemstone, right? A mathematical modeling project. I say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's do it. You can do it through email. I mean, you can actually work with a US professor on an independent research project. And there are so many out there. So, feel free, if you have any research ideas in our subjects, right? Write a letter, write email, right? I mean, nothing to lose.
Thank you. Also, if someone can answer this very quickly, there was a question about, probably from two people, whether there will be postdoctoral positions in USA and Canada. So maybe they're interested in their future after graduation. So can someone quickly answer that question, please?
There are postdoctoral positions, but I think it depends on the area, and I'm sure it will be there, but the how hard to get that particular area will depend on that particular time. But I think if you are still not yet even in graduate school, you have a lot of time to think about that.
I think, Sachith, did you mean from that question, did the question mean all PhD and you are living in Sri Lanka?
That's
what has been asked?
That was not clear from that question, Professor Premadasa. Maybe you can answer in that aspect also quickly.
I am not, because in mathematics that doesn't really happen. Maybe Unil or one of the other panelists can answer. So you get a PhD in Sri Lanka and you want to now do postdoc in the US or Canada. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. And I know several people who were at universities in Sri Lanka and came here as doing PhD and then got faculty positions and all that too. But you need to be involved in research. And even if you are not involved in research, you need to have a good record doing something close to the time. If you are new after the PhD and maybe 2 years, teaching somewhere may be still okay, but if you are 10, 15 years without any teaching, immediately to get a PhD, unless it is a great match to your original research work and they are really continuing something on that project, it will be little hard. It is not impossible, but it will be little hard.
Okay. I think that PhD, the person who asked the question just replied to me, and he or she is in plant sciences.
Okay.
And I have research experience in about 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then not all universities in US is very big on plant sciences, but maybe not in botany, but agriculture and environmental and other areas, some areas there where there might be options.
Sachith, is the PhD from Sri Lanka or? Yeah, maybe. So like just chipping, like, where after I went back, I came.
Yes, it's from Sri Lanka. Sorry.
Okay, I came for a postdoctoral position after applying from Sri Lanka. So.
Okay, that's very good to know.
And Sachith, if they like to come to Canada, like if they have a PhD from Sri Lanka, like NSERC actually have really good postdoctoral scholarship for international students. NSERC 1-year scholarship is a very prestigious one. If you have a couple of publications and a good CV, that's something that they can actually apply for.
Yeah.
And may I add something to sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something? Yeah, so actually there is a provision called, as far as the, we are not going to talk about visas today, but there is a position called visiting scholar. And after I finished my PhD, I actually kept on working with my, because the email was on at that time, just started. So I kept on working with on the visit. And once he actually invited me back to Purdue as a visiting scholar. So there are opportunities for you to go back and work in the United States also, in addition to postdoc.
Yes.
And Canada.
All right. That person who asked the question said, thank you so much. And Wasundara, do you have any big questions? Maybe last one.
Just one last question, maybe then a little different from the questions that I've been asking so far. Do we need a journal article publication to apply to get recognition, or an abstract publication would have the same advantage?
You will have a positive effect, but not to the same level. But having that is better than not having anything.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so any other thoughts from the panelists?
Sachith, I would like to make another remark about undergraduate education and applying for the PhD programs. Like, for example, for statistics programs and biostatistics, this is also possibly true in mathematics and data science, but particularly true for data science programs. You can have an undergraduate, for example, electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, and you can apply to those programs. You can apply to the, as long as you have taken some prerequisites like a calculus 1, multivariate calculus, and so on. So just because you had a certain type of undergraduate degree, you don't limit yourself only to that field. If you have prerequisites, you can always move into other fields, and this is commonly done in the USA. And for example, we have students, who have undergraduate major in chemistry, biology, or physics, or engineering. They come to biostatistics or data science and statistics program. So I think in Sri Lanka, usually, you go along the same path, but as long as you may want to look at the program, and then as long as you satisfy the prerequisites, there is a lot of opportunity to go into different programs. You don't necessarily have to go in that particular program. So for those who are looking at postdoc, I think somebody already made that comment. This is kind of something they can also look into, although they have done their PhD in certain areas, maybe closely related other research areas that they can look into for postdoc positions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amita for that remark. And with that, I would like to remind that we try to answer all of your questions through the questionnaire that we got, and a lot of questions that was put into the chat, but there were some certain questions that we couldn't answer. But some of them replied with their email with the question, so we will send it to the panelists and you will get a reply. Now, if you have any other questions or anything that we didn't answer, please email us at this email at gradstudies_info@cufsaa.org, and we will get your question. We will direct it to this expert panelist and also anyone else who is familiar, and try to give you the best answer that we can give you. So we are here not just today, we are here all year. So any further questions later, please email, and you can even share this email with any of your students who couldn't attend today, and ask them if they have a question. We are here to help you. With that, I would like to move on to the word of thanks. So for that, I would like to invite Dr. Professor Perera, Associate Professor of Mathematics at Kent State University, Trumbull campus. Over to you, Vikum.
Thank you, Sachith. Excellent panel. Thank you so much. Let's give a hand to everyone. Great job. Yeah, and thank you for the our subcommittee, CUFSAA Speaker Series Subcommittee. You guys have pulled it off. It's a great presentation, and thank you for all your hard work. So I also like to thank our expert panelists, the distinguished panelists, Doctors Harshica Fernando, Arunika Gunawardena, Amita Manatunga, Unil Perera, and Kirthi Premadasa. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists. You have touched your many application aspects, and you have given excellent advice. And I sincerely hope our students will use this advice and the insights you guys shared, and then will be successful in getting applications through to USA and Canada. So great job. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, our subcommittee. Thank you for all your work. So, well, to talk about the CUFSAA, our mission is actually to help students and the departments of the Faculty of Science of the University of Colombo. However, many of our projects have been, and currently what we are doing are all, goes to a wider audience. Many are benefiting all over the Sri Lanka. To tell you the truth, the association started in 2016 by our founder president, Professor Ranga Tilakaratna, and since then, we have actually supported close to like $250,000 US to Sri Lanka. And our executive committee is 25 members strong, and we each take individual leadership and brings projects and carry out to the success. So I welcome everyone to join and support our mission, and we thank you for all all the work you are doing. So the speaker series, similar to all our projects and programs, are actually conducted in collaboration with the Faculty of Science, University of Colombo. In this regard, we get the university's unwavering support. The dean and the department heads and the academic staff have been always wonderfully supportive, and I sincerely thank our dean, Senior Professor Upul Sonnadara, and all the department heads for all their support, and they always comes out with essential and critical support, and they are always available. Thank you for the university and the Faculty of Science as well. So, and finally, let me thank our audience. And I hope all of you got something out of this, and hope you are going to be successful in your application process. And like Sachith and Wasundara tell you, we are available here, so feel free to use that email address and get in touch with us. We'll have try to find the answers to questions we're asking if we cannot answer by ourselves. And so I wish you good luck, and looking forward to seeing many of you in USA or Canada and getting, join with us and doing all the work. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. It's great presentation. Thank you, panelists.
Okay, so we have come to the very end of our session today. Like Viku mentioned, CUFSAA Distinguished Speaker Series, we try to address the issues and the questions that the students in Sri Lanka they have. If you have any, we always like to hear from you. If you have any suggestions on the speakers, on the topics that you would like to hear in the future, please write to us at speaker-series@cufsaa.org. And we are hoping to see you soon. And this would be the end of the session for this month. Sachith?
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, students, for joining. We will see you soon with another talk.